Hello, this is part 2 of Love Letter to America by Thomas Schuman, also known as Yuri Bezmenov. And here we go. Dear Americans, my name is Thomas David Schuman. I am what you may call a defector from the USSR, and I have a message for you. I love you very much. I love all of you, liberals and conservatives, decadent capitalists and oppressed masses, blacks and whites and browns and yellows, rednecks and intellectuals. For me, you are the people who create a unique nation, country, and society in the history of mankind. By no means a perfect one, but, let's face it, the most free, affluent, and just in today's world. I am not alone in this love. People all over the earth, whether they praise America or bitterly criticize her, look upon you as the only hope for mankind's survival in the last stronghold of freedom. Some may not think of these idealistic terms, but they certainly enjoy the fruits of your civilization, often forgetting to be grateful for them. Millions of people in the so-called socialist camp or in the third world literally owe their lives to America. As a wartime child, I survived partly thanks to such decadent capitalists, as the Soviets say, things as Spam meat and condensed milk and egg powder that were supplied to my country by the USA through the Lend-Lease program of World War II. In the Soviet Union, we secretly but proudly called ourselves the Spam Generation. Too prosaic? Who cares about spam in today's USA apart from the underprivileged welfare recipients? Well, for me, these foods were not merely the nostalgic delight of my troubled childhood, but rather a symbol of love from a friend when I was in need. No amount of communist propaganda against America has ever been able to convince me that the United States out to colonize and exploit. I will tell you, many people have been more than willing to have exploited the American way. For what other reason have thousands risked their lives, gone to unimaginable troubles, left behind their families, their motherland, and traditional ways of life to come to America? Have you ever heard of illegal aliens risking their lives crossing the border at midnight into the socialist USSR? Or the boat people swimming oceans and drowning by the thousands just to reach the shores of communist China? Or defectors like me leaving behind relative affluence and risking bullets in the back in order to join the progressive workers' paradise in Russia? No, we all come here to America, obviously willing to be exploited by capitalists and enjoy oppression together with you, because we believe and know America is a better place. I am writing this not to please you with words you want to hear. The rest of my message be more unpleasant to you than even communist propaganda, for more offensive than the speeches of leaders in Kremlin. But as a true friend of America, I want to help. My dear friends, I think you are in big trouble. Whether you believe it or not, you are at war. And you may lose this war very soon, together with all your affluence and freedoms, unless you start defending yourselves. I hope you have noticed on your color televisions that there is in fact war going on right now all over this planet. This war has many faces, but it's all the same. It's war. Some call it national liberation. Some title it class struggle or political terrorism. Others will call it anti-colonialism or struggle for majority rule. Some even come up with such fancy names as War of Patriotic Forces or Peace Movement. I call it World Communist Aggression. I know that what I am talking about because I was on the side of the aggressor before I decided to take your side. I do not believe, I know that in this war no one is being liberated, decolonized, or made equal, as Soviet doctrine proclaims. You may notice, if you give yourself the trouble to observe, that the only equality and liberation this war produces is the equality of death and the liberation from freedom. Look at Russia, Poland, Hungary, Afghanistan. Would you say the people in those countries celebrated and rejoiced when the Soviets brought them equality and liberation? Of course not. We must take a clear and honest look at what Soviet liberation actually means. This war of communist world aggression is not fought against some mythological capitalists, as communist propaganda proclaims. No, my dear friends, this war is fought against you, personally. Communist wars of world aggression are not fought for liberty and equality. We have thousands of unequivocal examples of horrendous human suffering, torture, and mass death that occur after a Soviet liberation. The final stage of communist aggression, military confrontation, has very little to do with rivalry for territory or geopolitical gains in order to free and liberate. Communist world aggression is a total war against humanity and human civilization. In communist propaganda terms, this is the final struggle for victory of communism. The driving force of this war has very little to do with natural aspirations of people for better lives and greater freedoms. If at all, these aspirations are being asked and taken advantage of by the manipulators and progenitors of war. The real driving force of this war of aggression is ideology. Something you cannot eat, wear, or store for a rainy day. An integral part of this war of ideology is ideological subversion. The process of changing the perception of reality in the minds of millions of peoples all over the world. The late Comrade Andropov, the former head of the Soviet KGB, called this war of communist aggression the final struggle for the minds and hearts of the people. The reason I am so certain of this real goal of communist aggression is that I was actually part of an unwilling instrument of Soviet subversion tactics, having been trained and used by the KGB for their global ideological subversion campaign. I have some first-hand knowledge about the people behind this war and the methods they use. I know very well the way the communists, whom the Western media call freedom fighters and rebels, operate. I know their mentality and their methods. I know their ultimate goals, which are very far from the liberty, equality, and freedom they verbally espouse. Because I have seen the tragic consequences of this war of ideological subversion, I would like to offer some suggestions as to how we in the United States can defend ourselves against this deadly war and how we can survive in this final struggle for minds and hearts. What's in it for Thomas Schuman, you may ask? Well, I've asked myself, what do I get for defecting from the winning side, the Soviets, and joining the losers? I hope I don't have to tell you that at least a dozen countries have succumbed to the communists since my defection. In reality, dear friends, I have gained nothing materially from my defection. That I have gained as a firm commitment to the United States as the last real frontier of freedom. This is it, dear Americans. Your country, and mine now, will be the last to be liberated by Marxists, socialists, and domestic do-gooders. If the liberationists succeed to bringing their new order to America, chances are you and I will meet in front of a firing squad, or worse, in a re-education forced labor camp in Alaskan People's Democratic Republic. You have too many concrete examples of what communist liberation has done for other countries to believe that I am wrong when I warn you that we are on the brink of disaster. From one that has lived, worked, and seen firsthand the realities of day-to-day life in a communist dictatorship/socialist state. You must wake up now and start defending the rights and freedoms you now have. No matter how many problems you think the US may have, believe me when I say that they are nothing in comparison to the troubles you will experience in the US countries to agree to sympathize with communist socialist doctrine. I've made my choice to be with you, the nation I love. I have risked my life, like many others, to tell you of my life experiences within a communist state. You have nothing to risk by listening to me and making up your mind as to whether I am a Cold War paranoiac, as your media calls me, paranoiac, or whether my message makes sense. The choice is yours. This ends part 2. Thank you for listening, and watch out for part 3 of Love Letter to America by Thomas Schuman.